Good morning and welcome back to Shadowrun Week here on Gaming with ADHD. Today for Other Worlds Wednesday, we are going to be taking a look at Shadowrun Emerald City, the new setting book for Shadowrun 6th World, focusing on the iconic Shadowrun city, Seattle. As one of the largest supplements so far, this book takes us on a whirlwind tour of Seattle and its surroundings. From Everett in the north with its dockyards, to Puyallup in the south with its ash-covered lawlessness. The Seattle Metroplex of Shadowrun has more than enough for the average runner to tackle, provided the new yen is good, of course. But before we get started, make sure you are subscribed to the channel. I release a few videos every week covering all sorts of tabletop gaming topics, and while I don't cover Shadowrun every week, it is a favorite topic of mine, and so I do keep coming back with reviews and coverage that I hope you will find interesting. And also, if you do find something that you like, besides Shadowrun, I would love for you to come along and share in that as well. So, if you are interested in picking up this book, there will be links down in the description to DriveThruRPG where you can purchase the PDF. I'll also link to the Catalyst Game Lab store if you wish to pick up a physical copy. But of course, don't forget to check your friendly local gaming store, as they will probably be carrying it as well. So, with that said, let's get into it. So, quick overview on the book. It was released in 2022 in April, and it is 206 pages, available in both print and PDF. It runs $49.99 for the print copy and $19.99 for the PDF. You can pick it up at Catalyst Game Labs, DriveThruRPG, or your friendly local game store. Now, some quick highlights on the book. This is the newest in Seattle supplements that have pretty much come with every edition of the game. It focuses not just on Seattle as a location, but also how the meta plot is affecting it. If you weren't aware, in Shadowrun 6th World, Seattle has gone independent. They have partnered, with the backing of the Sea Dragon, they have decided to sever the ties with the UCAS and are going their own way. But it's still very early in the plot line, so there's not a lot of developments on it yet. Now, it also does a breakdown of the city as a whole. So it just kind of gives you some overview on what they're talking about, but then it also does break down each of the 12 districts, including the underground, which has actually been elevated to full district status. So complete with sins, everything, it is now officially a part of the city. You do get about 15 pages per district, and so there's actually quite a bit of content for each of the areas. It's going to give you a good taste of what the area is about, and here in a couple of minutes I will actually kind of break down how they organize that. So, as far as the city overview, first off they start with a history of Seattle. A very brief description of Seattle pre-emergence of the 6th World, and then key highlights of what occurred in Seattle from goblinization in the 2030s up to the current day. They also give a breakdown on the government, international relations, specifically the Salishide Council, and I'm probably butchering these names, but please forgive me on that one. Chirtangir to the south, and the Japanese imperial state across the ocean. It also does break down how Seattle deals with the corporations. It talks about 8 of the AAA mega corporations, and then about 12 AA or smaller corporations, but corporations that are relevant to Seattle, such as Federated Boeing and the like. It then also breaks down transportation, how you can get around in Seattle, and then also security, you know, including law enforcement. You know, Lone Star is back in Seattle as the primary law enforcement, and so how they are adjusting to that as well. And then finally, they do touch on the geography and the climate. This is kind of a small section, but they also make sure to point out that it doesn't always rain in Seattle. I don't believe it, but, you know, everybody's got their opinion there. All right, so as far as the individual districts, the way they break it down is first just an overview. Just whoever the in-universe author is gives a couple of paragraphs or more talking about the particular district. They now also keep in mind these are not exact for each of the districts. They do. Some of the districts will have less of these sections. Some will actually include unique sections just to that section or that district itself. They're then going to go into the vibe. Basically, what's the tone of the district? You know, how are the people? What are the environmental conditions? What is it like being in this area? You know, when it talks about some of the let's see, bear with me 1 second. I know, super professional. So Auburn, which is presented as more of, we'll call it a lower middle class area. So it talks about the people there, but then it also deals with the fact that, you know, there are environmental issues in Auburn that the characters will have to deal with. So, the vibe goes into making sure that you understand what it's like for the people in that area. Then also anything else that they think is necessary to set the tone. Then the extremely local forecast. Basically, this deals with where is the district headed now that they've gone independent. Is there something new in the politics? Like the underground, it deals with the gentrification, where previously it was more lower class, unregistered individuals, primarily orcs and trolls. But now it's the place to move into. And so how are they being displaced? What is happening to housing markets, things like that, construction, dealing with something that's very, very unique to that local area. They then all have a section of hotspots. So what locations are important in this particular district? Allies and enemies, so who to find and who to look out for. And then local character. Now this means, instead of local character as far as what the area is like, it's 2 or 3 character creation options. Skills or quirks or qualities, I guess I should say, for a character that lives or is from that particular area of Seattle. Now, with all of that, some of the things that I like. First off, this is a massive update for Shadowrun. It is almost completely text for the book, and so it is a massive amount of information. I was actually struggling to read this because of the ADHD, but I actually got to the point where I found a text-to-speech reader, plugged the PDF into it, and actually used that to kind of follow along, which actually ended up helping my concentration, helped me get through the book a bit faster, because there's a lot of information. The amount of information, honestly, is going to give you plenty of material for runs up until 7th edition releases. Now, obviously, you're going to have to create a lot of the runs yourself, but there's so much information in the book that you can mine for that you've got inspiration for years to come. All right. The information provided, also, it makes the districts feel unique. Including the commentary, there's a lot of flavor and background for each district. They all feel different. They all feel appropriate. Even though it's Seattle, so it's just it's its own independent city-state surrounded by many other larger independent nations. So to take all of the districts and make them feel different, I think was a fantastic accomplishment for this particular book. Let's see. Also, another thing I like about it is because the only rules are the local character options, this book is going to be useful for quite some time because of the fact that the rules content is actually very light. I know in some of my other reviews, I usually talk about what are the rules that the book adds to the game, but I think for a setting book, going a little bit more generic and avoiding a lot of rules inclusions was actually a better choice in this regard. All right, couple of things that I am neutral on. First off is the local character section. The new qualities are kind of mixed. They are either very specific to the particular region, or they are very generic and are going to be great qualities that you can use anywhere. Like one, for example, out of Downtown, talks about because Downtown has so much surveillance in place that your character is now very good at understanding how surveillance is put into use, where it's put into use, and so you get an edge based on or an edge when you either need to avoid surveillance or when you want to actually use surveillance on somebody it that can be applied anywhere. It's very generic. It's very useful. So, I wish more of the qualities were useful like that. Some of them are extremely specific, but in general, they are a good mix. But like I said, I'm putting in the neutral category because of the fact that it is so mixed. They're not all, we'll say useful. The next thing I like is that it is easily digestible chunks. You don't have to read it all at once. If you are working on a campaign or something, you can go into just the specific area you need, read the information about it, and get the information. You don't have, just because you're reading Auburn doesn't mean you have to read Puyallup or Everett to understand that particular district. You can just focus on the one that you need. The plot books I have found are typically more focused when they're covering the topics, but this one is very much more general in nature. All right, couple of things that I do dislike about this book. Number one, the art was, I didn't have a problem with the art itself. I have a problem with the quantity. 206 pages, and there's, number one, no more than one piece of art per district. Some of them didn't even get a piece of art, and there were a total of 19 pieces out of 206 pages, and all but one of those were half-page pieces of art. So there were a couple that were vertical half pages. Most of them were horizontal half pages. But that was it. There was one full page piece of art that honestly, it was a generic. I think she was an elf. It's a generic female character that doesn't look like it's necessarily in Seattle. Maybe I'm missing something. Um, yeah, it's a female elf with a sniper rifle in front of a bunch of skyscrapers. That's it. It doesn't say Seattle. It doesn't imply a district or anything. So I was really disappointed with that, especially for trying to cover a city and cities being very visual places. I would have liked more art. And one of the things that they could have done to improve that is maps. There were so I only have the PDF. I don't have the print version. There are no maps included in this. Now, with that said, I do think they should have at least included a district map for each of the districts. I would have liked if they marked where the different hotspots were located, if it was important to have those in particular locations. I know a lot of them, kind of do have specific locations. I don't see why they couldn't have included it. There was also no map of Seattle in general. Now, with that being said, most of the books do have maps printed on the inside of the cover, just as the I don't know the name of it, but basically the pieces of paper that glue the pages to the actual cover itself. And the print versions usually include a map that's put in there. I'm assuming they did that with this and used Seattle for it, but in the PDF version they don't even include that. It's the kind of red street line map that is kind of generic. Again, would have been great to at least include that, or a single page in the PDF including that map of Seattle. They didn't do it. I don't know why they didn't do it, but it is what it is. With that being said, if you do have the beginner box, I know it comes with a map of Seattle there, but come on. It's a Seattle book. There should be a Seattle map. Even if it's just a page of the book in Seattle, again, it absolutely needed to be there, and at least in some form, and I am disappointed that they didn't do that. So, in conclusion, what do I think of the book? Honestly, I really do like the book. There are the problems with the art. If you've watched any of my other videos, you know that I'm going to be complaining about art. I think they've scaled it way back. I don't mind if they would reprint some of the art, maybe some of the art that they used in 5th edition, but repurpose some of the art. There were a lot of half-page, at the end of a district section, about a half page of white space. They could have filled that in with art that they already had. Again, personal request. But outside of that, honestly, I really enjoyed this. I did enjoy going through it. I think it was written very well. There were a couple of things that I found where I think the author was injecting a little bit of modern politics into the writing, and I didn't really care for that. But to be honest with you, it wasn't a big deal. I just noticed it and would have preferred not seeing it, but it also wasn't blunt in your face, just kind of hitting you with a lot of the modern things that we've got going on. They are games, they are used for escapes, so while we can touch on some of those subjects, I wish they were a little better at working it in, where at least to me it wouldn't have been so obvious. But it didn't take away from the book. There's a lot of good information, And overall, I really, really did enjoy this and absolutely recommend it, even if you're not a fan of Shadowrun 6 World. Regardless of the edition of the game that you play, this at least gives you a lot of good information. I as far as general information, I would put it on par with like the Neo-Anarchist Streetpedia, just because of the fact that it is a lot of good generic information about the core setting of the game. I realize not everybody plays in Seattle. There's more cities around the world than Seattle, but Seattle is the core of the Shadowrun setting, and this just gives you a ton of updated information about it. So absolutely, I do recommend the book. Even for all for the complaints that I've got about it, absolutely pick it up and find out where Shadowrun is in 2082. So with that said, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please do give it a like, and again, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. And thank you for watching, and we will talk to you next time. Bye.